Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he looked through his rifle scope. The sun was getting hot on planet Kepler 442b, and his armor felt heavy. He had been a soldier for 8 years, but this war was different. Fighting aliens was not like fighting other humans. "Captain, I see movement ahead," said Sergeant Lisa Carter. She was lying flat on her belly next to him, watching the valley below through her own scope. Jake looked where she was pointing. In the distance, he could see strange vehicles moving slowly across the rocky ground. They looked like giant metal flowers with smooth, curved sides. These were Zephyrian ships. "Looks like an evacuation convoy," said Corporal Ryan Blake from behind them. He was the youngest member of their squad, only 22 years old. "Should we call it in?" Jake thought for a moment. Their job was to watch and report enemy movements, not to attack. The war had been going on for 3 years now, and both sides had lost many people. Jake was tired of all the fighting, but he had his orders. "We watch and report," Jake said. "Stay hidden." The Zephyrian convoy moved slowly through the valley. Jake could see that some of the vehicles looked damaged. Smoke was coming from one of them. These aliens were running away from something. Suddenly, the sky filled with the sound of human fighters. Jake looked up and saw 3 small ships diving toward the convoy. But these ships did not have military markings. They were painted black with red symbols. "Those are not our guys," Lisa said, her voice worried. Jake knew she was right. These were the bad humans, the ones who attacked anyone, even civilians. They called themselves the Human Liberation Front, but they were really just criminals who liked to hurt people. The black ship started shooting at the convoy. Bright beams of light hit the alien vehicles, making them explode in fire and metal pieces. The Zephyrian ships tried to run, but they were too slow and heavy. "We have to do something," Ryan said, starting to stand up. "No," Jake said, grabbing his arm. "We are only 3 people. We cannot fight 3 fighter ships." But then Jake saw something that made his heart stop. One of the alien vehicles had opened up, and people were running out. But they were not just adult aliens. There were small ones too. Children, the Zephyrians, looked like humans in some ways, but their skin was pale blue and seemed to shine with its own light. The adults were tall and thin, with long arms and large eyes. The children looked almost human, except for their glowing skin and the way they moved, quick and graceful like cats. One small alien child got separated from the group. She was running toward the rocks where Jake and his team were hiding. Behind her, one of the black ships was coming down for another attack. The pilot was aiming right at the little girl. Jake did not think. He just moved. He jumped up from his hiding place and ran down the hill as fast as he could. His heavy boots slipped on the loose rocks, but he kept running. Behind him, he could hear Lisa shouting his name. The alien child saw him coming and stopped running. Her large eyes went wide with fear. Her skin started glowing brighter, like a light bulb getting more power. Jake could see that she was terrified. The black ship was almost on top of them now. Jake could see the pilot's face through the glass front of the ship. The man was smiling as he aimed his weapons at the small alien. Jake reached the child just as the ship fired. Without thinking, he threw his body over her, covering her completely with his armored body. He felt like he was hugging a warm, glowing lamp. The plasma beams hit Jake's armor with tremendous force. The first shot knocked the wind out of him. The second shot burned through his backplate and into his skin. The third shot hit his leg and he screamed in pain, but he did not let go of the alien child. The little girl was making soft sounds under him. Her hands touched his face and he felt a strange tingling feeling. Her skin was warm and smooth, and the light from it was getting brighter. Jake heard more shooting, but now it was coming from behind him. Lisa and Ryan had opened fire on the black ships. The pilots were surprised by the attack from the rocks and pulled away. Jake rolled off the alien child and looked at her. She was not hurt, but tears were running down her glowing cheeks. She said something in her own language. Her voice sounded like music. "It's okay," Jake said, even though he knew she could not understand him. "You're safe now." More Zephyrian vehicles were coming toward them. Jake tried to stand up, but his leg would not work right. There was a lot of blood coming from his wounds, and he was starting to feel dizzy. The alien child stood up and put her small hands on his armor where the burns were. Her skin got even brighter, and Jake felt the tingling feeling again, stronger this time. Then everything went dark. When Jake woke up, he was lying on something soft. Above him, he could see a curved ceiling that glowed with soft blue light. He was inside an alien ship. Standing next to him was a tall female Zephyrian. Her skin was darker blue than the child's, and she wore clothes that looked like they were made of liquid metal. Her large eyes were looking at him with an expression he could not read. Next to her stood the little girl he had saved. She was holding on to the adult's hand and looking at Jake with curiosity instead of fear. The adult alien said something in her musical language. Then she did something that surprised Jake completely. She knelt down next to him and put her hand over her heart. Then she pointed at him and said one word in English: Guardian. Jake spent 3 days in the alien medical bay before his own people found him. The Zephyrian doctors had fixed his wounds with some kind of blue gel that made his skin tingle. When the human rescue team arrived, Jake was walking around the ship like nothing had happened. Captain Morrison, said General Frank Torres as Jake stood at attention in the briefing room, do you understand what you have done? Jake looked straight ahead. I protected a civilian, sir, a child. You protected the enemy, the general said, his face red with anger. You left your position, you put your team at risk, and now the aliens are claiming you belong to them. This was news to Jake. Sir? The alien commander, Veltar, says you are now part of her family under their laws. She wants to keep you. General Torres walked around Jake like a shark. She says you have something called Morthak, some alien nonsense about souls. Jake had met Commander Veltar during his stay on the ship. She was the mother of the little girl he had saved. The child's name was hard to say in English, but it meant something like Whisper of Stars. Veltar had been very kind to him, but she always looked sad. Sir, I was just doing what any soldier would do, Jake said. No, Morrison. A soldier follows orders. A soldier thinks about the mission first. The general stopped in front of Jake. I should have you court-martialed for this. But before the general could say more, the door opened. A woman in a white lab coat walked in. Jake recognized her as Dr. Helen Price, one of the scientists who studied alien cultures. General, I need to speak with Captain Morrison, she said. Dr. Price, we are in the middle of... General, this is important. Her voice was firm. What Captain Morrison did has changed everything. The aliens want to talk. An hour later, Jake sat in a different room with Dr. Price and several other officers. On the table in front of them was a translation device that let them talk to the aliens. Commander Veltar's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Jake could see Whisper of Stars playing with some kind of glowing toy. Captain Morrison, Veltar said through the translator, you have honored my family with your sacrifice. In our culture, anyone who protects a child with their own life becomes Velmor, a guardian soul. You are now part of my family. Dr. Price leaned forward. Commander, can you explain what this means? It means Captain Morrison has proven he has the light of life inside him. He has shown that humans can be more than just warriors. He has shown that humans care for children, even children that are not their own. Jake felt uncomfortable with all this attention. Ma'am, I just did what felt right. Veltar's large eyes seemed to smile. That is exactly why you are Velmor. You did not think. You just acted to protect the young. This is the most important thing in our culture. General Torres spoke up from behind the camera. What does this mean for our situation? It means we must talk, Veltar said. For 3 years we have fought because we thought humans were destroyers. But Captain Morrison has shown us that humans have Morthak, the soul light that makes life worth protecting. Perhaps we have been wrong about your people. After the call ended, Dr. Price turned to Jake. Do you understand what just happened? Jake shook his head. You just became the first human to be accepted into an alien family. The Zephyrians have very strict rules about who can be trusted with their children. They believe that anyone who would die to protect a child has a special kind of soul. But I'm still human, Jake said. Yes, but now you're also something else. You're a bridge between our peoples. Dr. Price smiled. The Zephyrians want to meet with our leaders. They want to talk about peace. That evening, Jake called his sister Amy on the USS Defiance. She was a communications officer, and she had always been the smart one in the family. Jake, everyone is talking about what you did, she said through the video screen. Some people think you're a hero. Others think you're a traitor. What do you think? Jake asked. Amy was quiet for a moment. I think you saved a little girl's life. I think Mom and Dad would be proud of you. Their parents had died in the early days of the war when the aliens attacked Earth's outer colonies. Jake had joined the military to fight back. But now everything seemed more complicated. Amy, what if I was wrong? What if we're fighting this war for the wrong reasons? Then maybe it's time to find out what the right reasons are, she said. The next day, Jake met with Sergeant Lisa Carter and Corporal Ryan Blake. They were his team, and he needed to know they still trusted him. Captain, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen anyone do, Lisa said. But it was also the bravest. You saved a kid, Ryan added. I don't care what color her skin is or where she comes from. She was just a scared little girl. Jake felt relief wash over him. His team understood. So what happens now? Lisa asked. Now we wait, Jake said. The aliens want to talk. Maybe this war doesn't have to go on forever. But even as he said it, Jake knew that not everyone would be happy about peace talks. There were people on both sides who wanted to keep fighting. People like the Human Liberation Front who had tried to kill Whisper of Stars. Change was never easy. But sometimes, Jake thought, it started with one person doing the right thing, even when it was dangerous, even when it meant protecting someone you were supposed to call your enemy. Jake looked at the bandages on his arms where the alien weapons had burned him. Under the bandages, his skin was healing faster than it should have been. The alien doctors had done something to help him heal. Maybe people could heal too. Maybe even whole worlds could learn to heal instead of hurt. It all started with a little girl who needed someone to protect her, and a soldier who chose love over fear. 2 weeks later, Jake found himself on board the largest alien ship he had ever seen. The Zephyrian flagship was like a floating city made of crystal and metal. The walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers. He was not exactly a prisoner, but he was not exactly free either. The humans and aliens had agreed to a temporary ceasefire while they figured out what to do about Jake's new status. Both sides wanted to understand what it meant that a human had been accepted into an alien family. This way, Captain Morrison, said the young Zephyrian who was guiding him through the ship. His name was Kethal, and he spoke English very well. Commander Veltar is waiting for you in the family quarters. Jake walked through corridors filled with aliens going about their daily lives. They stopped to stare at him as he passed. Some looked curious, others looked afraid. A few even smiled and nodded, which surprised him. Kethal noticed Jake looking around. Many of our people have heard what you did for Whisper of Stars. They are honored to meet the first human with Morthak. What exactly does that mean? Jake asked. It means you have the soul light that connects all living things. It means you understand that protecting the young is more important than protecting yourself. It means you are worthy to be one of us. They reached a door that opened by itself as they approached. Inside, Jake saw a large room with curved walls and comfortable furniture that seemed to be made of the same glowing material as everything else on the ship. Veltar was sitting on what looked like a couch, reading something on a device that projected words in the air. Whisper of Stars was playing on the floor with toys that moved by themselves. When she saw Jake, the little girl jumped up and ran to him. She had learned a few words of English during the past 2 weeks. Jake, Jake, she said, grabbing his hand. Her skin was warm and glowing softly. Play with me. Veltar looked up and smiled. She has been asking for you all morning. She says you are her guardian friend. Jake knelt down so he was at Whisper of Stars eye level. What are we playing today? She showed him a set of small figures that looked like different aliens and humans. We play family, you are the daddy. Jake felt his face get red. Oh, I don't think. It is just a game, Veltar said gently. In her mind, you are part of our family now. That is what Velmore means. For the next hour, Jake played with Whisper of Stars while Veltar worked. The little girl was teaching him words in her language, and he was teaching her more English words. She was very smart and learned quickly. During their play, Jake started to understand how different Zephyrian families were from human ones. Veltar had pictures of many different adults around the room, both male and female. When Jake asked about them, she explained that Zephyrian children belonged to the whole community, not just to two parents. Where is her father? Jake asked, quietly when Whisper of Stars was busy with her toys. Veltar's expression became sad. He died in the early battles of this war. He was on an exploration ship that your people attacked. We thought all humans were killers then. Jake felt sick to his stomach. I'm sorry. You are not responsible for what others have done, Veltar said, just as I am not responsible for what my people have done to yours. But you have shown us that humans can be protectors too. That afternoon, Jake had a video call with Admiral Ben Cooper, the leader of the human fleet. The Admiral looked worried and tired. Morrison, how are they treating you? Admiral Cooper asked. Very well, sir. They've been kind to me. Good. Good. The Admiral looked around nervously. Listen, son, there are some people back on Earth who think you've been brainwashed or something. They think the aliens are using some kind of mind control on you. Jake thought about this. Sir, I don't feel any different. I still know who I am. I still remember my training and my duty to humanity. But you're living with them now. You're part of their family. Yes, sir. But that doesn't make me less human. Admiral Cooper was quiet for a moment. Morrison, what do you think started this war? Jake had been wondering about that same thing. During his time on the ship, he had learned more about Zephyrian culture. Sir, I think there was a big misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? The planets we were colonizing, the Zephyrians thought they were special places where children were supposed to be safe. They called them nursery worlds. When we started building cities there, they thought we were trying to hurt their children. Admiral Cooper leaned forward. And what did we think? We thought they were trying to stop us from expanding into empty space. We thought they wanted to keep us trapped near Earth. So both sides thought they were protecting their children? Yes? Sir, the Admiral rubbed his face with his hands. 3 years of war because we couldn't talk to each other properly. That evening, Jake had dinner with Veltar's extended family. There were 12 adults and 6 children around the table, all of them Zephyrian except for Jake. The food was strange but tasty, and everyone was very polite to him. An older male, named Morthek, asked Jake many questions about human culture. He seemed especially interested in how humans raise their children. Among my people, Morthek said, every adult is responsible for every child. We cannot understand how humans can let children be hurt or hungry when there are adults who could help them. Jake thought about the homeless children he had seen in cities on Earth and the kids who did not have enough food or good schools. We're not perfect, he admitted. But you protected Whisper of Stars, said a female named Silara. You risked your life for a child who was not even your own species. This tells us that humans have the capacity for true Morthak. After dinner, Jake walked with Veltar through the ship's gardens. Real plants grew here under artificial light, creating a peaceful space filled with colors and sweet smells. Jake, Veltar said, there is something I must tell you. The High Council wants to test you. Test me how? There is an ancient ritual called the Trial of Souls. It is very dangerous. Many who attempt it do not survive. Jake stopped walking. What kind of trial? You would enter a special chamber where your mind would be tested. You would face situations where you must choose between saving yourself and saving others. The trial can tell if someone truly has Morthak in their soul. What happens if I pass? You would become the first human to be granted full citizenship in our empire. You could help us understand your people better. You could help bring peace. And if I fail? Veltar looked away. You would die, and the war would continue. Jake thought about his sister Amy and Lisa and Ryan and all the soldiers on both sides who were still fighting and dying. He thought about Whisper of Stars and all the other children who deserve to grow up in a world without war. "When does the trial begin?" he asked. The trial of souls would take place in 3 days. Jake spent that time learning as much as he could about what he would face. Veltar told him that the trial was different for everyone, but it always involved protecting others at great risk, to yourself. "The chamber will read your mind and create situations based on your fears and memories," she explained. "You cannot prepare for exactly what you will see. You can only prepare your heart." Jake also spent time with Whisper of Stars. The little girl seemed to know something important was happening, even though no one had told her about the trial. She stayed close to Jake and often held his hand. "Are you going away?" she asked him in her mixture of English and Zephyrian words. "I might have to," Jake said honestly. "But I want you to know that meeting you was the best thing that happened to me in this war." She hugged him tightly. "You are my guardian friend forever," she said. On the day of the trial, Jake was taken to a special part of the ship he had never seen before. The chamber was a perfect sphere made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow from within. Cables and devices surrounded it, operated by Zephyrian technicians who looked very serious. Elder Morthak Velanos, the leader of the High Council, was there to oversee the trial. He was very old, even for a Zephyrian, and his skin had a deep, blue color like the ocean. "Captain Morrison," he said through the translator, "do you understand what you are about to face?" "I understand that this trial will test whether I truly care about protecting others," Jake said. "It is more than that. The trial will push you to your limits. It will show you things that will make you want to give up. It will ask you to sacrifice everything for people you do not even know. Are you ready?" Jake thought about all the reasons he was doing this. For peace, for Whisper of Stars, for his sister Amy and all the soldiers still fighting, for a future where human and Zephyrian children could play together instead of hiding from each other. "I'm ready," he said. From the observation room, Lieutenant Sam Parker and other human medical officers watched Jake's vital signs on their monitors. They had been allowed to observe the trial to make sure Jake was not being harmed. Veltar was also in the observation room with Whisper of Stars. The little girl pressed her hands against the glass and watched as Jake entered the crystal chamber. "Will he be okay?" Whisper of Stars asked. "I hope so," Veltar said softly. As soon as Jake stepped into the chamber, the world around him changed. He found himself standing in a burning city that looked like the colonies where he had grown up. Buildings were falling down, and the sky was full of smoke. All around him, he could hear children crying. Jake ran toward the sound and found a group of human children trapped under a collapsed building. They were scared and hurt, and some of them were bleeding. "Help us!" one of them cried. "Please help us." Jake started pulling away the heavy pieces of concrete and metal. His hands got cut and his back hurt from lifting, but he kept working. He managed to free 3 of the children, but then he heard more crying from another direction. He turned and saw Zephyrian children trapped in a burning vehicle. The fire was getting closer to them. Jake realized he could not save both groups. If he went to help the Zephyrian children, the remaining human children would die. If he stayed to help the human children, the Zephyrian children would burn. This was the test. He had to choose. In the observation room, the monitors showed that Jake's heart rate was very high. His brain activity was off the charts. "What is he seeing?" Sam Parker asked. Elder Velanos watched the readings carefully. "He is being forced to choose between saving his own kind and saving ours. This is the hardest part of the trial." Back in the trial, Jake made his choice. He could not abandon either group. Instead, he started shouting as loud as he could. "Lisa! Ryan! Amy! Anyone! I need help here." In the trial world, his voice seemed to carry impossible distances. Soon other people started appearing. Human soldiers and Zephyrian civilians working together to rescue the children. "You can't save everyone by yourself," Lisa Carter said as she appeared next to him. "But you can inspire others to help." Jake realized this was the lesson. A true protector does not just sacrifice himself. A true protector brings out the best in others, making them want to help too. The scene changed. Now Jake was on a spaceship that was about to explode. He had to choose between saving the ship's engines, which would save everyone on board, or saving a single child who was trapped in another part of the ship. Again, Jake refused to accept that he had to choose. He worked frantically to find a third option. He rerouted power from non-essential systems to give himself more time. He called for help from other crew members. He used his knowledge of both human and Zephyrian technology to create a solution that saved both the engines and the child. The trial continued for what felt like hours. Jake faced situation after situation where he had to protect others at great personal cost. He saved children from monsters. He led people out of disasters. He gave up his own safety over and over again. But he never gave up on anyone. He never decided that some lives were worth more than others. He treated every child, human or Zephyrian, as equally important. In the observation room, Whisper of Stars had fallen asleep in her mother's arms, but her skin was glowing brighter than usual, and she was murmuring words in her sleep. "What is she doing?" Sam Parker asked. Veltar looked surprised. "She is sharing her strength with him. Children sometimes do this for their protectors, but I have never seen it happen across species before." Elder Villanos nodded slowly. "The bond between them is stronger than we thought. She is serving as his anchor to the living world." The final test came when Jake found himself back on the battlefield where he had first met Whisper of Stars. But this time, instead of one child in danger, there were hundreds. Human and Zephyrian children were scattered across the battlefield, all of them in deadly danger. Jake knew he could not possibly save them all by himself, but he also knew he could not give up. He stood in the center of the battlefield and did something he had never done before. He called out to both human and Zephyrian soldiers in both languages. "Listen to me," he shouted. "These are our children, all of them. It doesn't matter what color their skin is or where they come from. They are the future and we have to protect them." In the trial, soldiers from both sides stopped fighting and started working together to save the children. Humans carried Zephyrian children to safety. Zephyrians used their medical knowledge to heal human children. Jake realized that this was what true protection looked like. Not one person sacrificing everything, but everyone working together to keep the young safe. The crystal chamber went dark. When the lights came back on, Jake was lying on the floor, unconscious but breathing. His vital signs were stable, and there was something different about him. His skin had a very faint glow, almost like the Zephyrians. Elder Villanos entered the chamber and knelt beside Jake. When Jake opened his eyes, the elder smiled. "Welcome, Guardian of Two Worlds," he said. "You have passed the trial of souls. You have proven that humans possess true Morthak." Whisper of Stars ran into the chamber and hugged Jake tightly. "You came back," she said happily. Jake sat up slowly, feeling tired, but also somehow different. Stronger, more connected to everything around him. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," said Elder Villanos, "we talk about peace." 6 months after Jake passed the trial of souls, the war officially ended. But it did not end with surrender or conquest. It ended with something that had never happened before in galactic history, a mutual protection agreement between two different species. Jake stood on the observation deck of the new space station called Unity Point, watching human and Zephyrian ships docking side by side. The station had been built in the space between Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld, and it served as the headquarters for their new alliance. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" said Colonel Nina Shaw as she joined him at the window. She had been promoted to lead the new Joint Diplomatic Corps. "Sometimes I still can't believe this all started because I couldn't let a little girl get hurt," Jake said. "The best changes usually start with someone doing the right thing without thinking about the consequences," Nina replied. Through the window, Jake could see groups of human and Zephyrian children playing together in the station's recreational areas. Their laughter echoed through the corridors in both languages. Some of the human children had learned to make their skin glow like the Zephyrians by using special paint. Some of the Zephyrian children wore human clothes and played human games. Whisper of Stars was now 7 years old and spoke both English and Zephyrian perfectly. She had become something of a celebrity on both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld. Videos of her playing with human children had helped convince many people that the two species could live together peacefully. "Jake!" she called out as she ran into the observation deck. She was wearing a small uniform that marked her as a junior ambassador. "Come see what we made." Jake followed her to the education center, where human and Zephyrian children were working together on a project. They had built a model of a planet where both species could live together. Little houses that looked human sat next to buildings that glowed like Zephyrian structures. Gardens with earth plants grew next to areas with Zephyrian crystal formations. "It's beautiful," Jake said, kneeling down to look at their work more closely. "It's going to be real," said a human boy named Danny. "My mom says they're already planning to build cities like this on some of the outer planets. And both kinds of kids will be safe there," added a Zephyrian girl whose name translated to Bright Morning. This was the result of the new alliance. Instead of fighting over planets, humans and Zephyrians were learning to share them. The nursery worlds that had started the war were now being developed as safe havens where children of both species could grow up together. Jake's role in all this had grown far beyond what he had ever imagined. He was now officially the guardian of two worlds, a title that made him an ambassador, protector, and bridge between the species. He spent his time traveling between human and Zephyrian worlds, helping to solve problems and misunderstandings before they could grow into conflicts. His sister Amy had been transferred to Unity Point as well, where she worked in the communications department that kept the two fleets coordinated. She found Jake in his office that evening working on reports about the new joint training programs. "You look tired," she said, sitting down in the chair across from his desk. "It's good tired," Jake said. "Today I watched human and Zephyrian pilots learn to fly together. Last week I helped negotiate a trade agreement for medical supplies. Tomorrow I'm visiting a new mixed colony where families from both species are building homes next to each other. Do you ever miss just being a regular soldier?" Amy asked. Jake thought about this. Sometimes. But then I remember what the galaxy was like when we were all just soldiers shooting at each other. This is better. Amy nodded. "Speaking of shooting, did you hear about Captain Pete Davis?" Jake looked up from his reports. Pete Davis had been one of the most anti-alien officers in the human fleet. "What about him?" "He's commanding the USS Horizon now, and he just finished a joint mission with a Zephyrian exploration ship. They discovered a new planet that might be perfect for one of the mixed colonies." "Pete Davis working with aliens?" Jake laughed. "I never thought I'd see that day." "People change," Amy said, "especially when they see that the alternative is more war." Later that evening, Jake met with Veltar in her new quarters on Unity Point. She had been appointed as the Zephyrian ambassador to humanity, and she worked closely with Jake on most diplomatic issues. Whisper of Stars was asleep in her room, but her soft glowing could be seen under the door. She had never lost the habit of glowing more brightly when Jake was nearby. "The High Council received your report about the mining dispute on Kepler 186F, Veltar said as they sat down for tea. "Your solution was very creative. Both sides wanted the same rare minerals, but they were willing to share once they realized they could trade knowledge about mining techniques," Jake said. "Humans are good at deep excavation and Zephyrians are good at finding deposits without damaging the environment. This is why the Council chose you as guardian," Veltar said. "You do not think in terms of winners and losers. You think in terms of how everyone can benefit." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking the sweet Zephyrian tea that Jake had grown to love. Through the window they could see the stars where both their peoples had originally come from. "Veltar," Jake said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret that the war ended? I mean, you lost your mate in that war. Don't you want revenge?" Veltar considered this carefully. "I was very angry for a long time. When Kethmore died, I wanted to hurt every human I could find. But then you saved my daughter. You showed me that humans could love our children just as much as we do. How could I want revenge against people who would die to protect my child?" She paused and looked out at the stars. "Besides, if we had kept fighting, many more mates and children would have died on both sides. The war ending means that no other mothers will lose their families the way I lost mine." Jake nodded. This was the wisdom that had made peace possible. Both species had lost people they loved in the war, but they had chosen to focus on protecting the living rather than avenging the dead. A month later, Jake stood before the combined councils of both species to give his annual report on the state of human-Zephyrian relations. Representatives from dozens of worlds attended in person or by hologram. 1 year ago, we were enemies, Jake began. Today, our children play together, our scientists share knowledge, and our fleets explore the galaxy side by side. This change happened not because of treaties or technology, but because we chose to see each other as people worthy of protection. He looked out at the audience, seeing both human and Zephyrian faces listening intently. The universe is vast and full of dangers. There are other species out there, some friendly and some hostile. There are natural disasters, resource shortages, and challenges we cannot even imagine yet. But we do not have to face these challenges alone anymore. He gestured to a section where human and Zephyrian military officers sat together. Our fleets now patrol together, sharing the responsibility of keeping our world safe. Our scientists work together to solve problems that neither species could handle alone. Our children grow up thinking of each other not as aliens, but as friends. Elder Villano stood up from the Zephyrian section. Though he was very old, his voice was still strong. Guardian Morrison speaks truly. The trial of souls showed us that humans possess the same Morthak that we value in ourselves. But more than that, this alliance has shown us that different species can make each other stronger, not weaker. Admiral Cooper stood up from the human section. Captain Morrison's actions saved more than one child's life. They saved all of us from a war that could have destroyed both our civilizations. The alliance we have built proves that there is always a better way than fighting if we are brave enough to look for it. After the meeting, Jake walked through Unity Point one more time before heading to his next assignment. He was going to visit a new planet where the first generation of human Zephyrian mixed communities were celebrating their children's first birthdays. As he walked, he thought about how much had changed since that day when he threw himself over a scared alien child. The galaxy was a different place now, not perfect but better, safer for children of all species. He stopped by the memorial wall where the names of everyone who had died in the war were inscribed in both human and Zephyrian writing. Among them was Kethmore, Veltar's mate, and thousands of others from both sides. "We made it work," Jake said quietly to the wall. "Your children are safe now. All of them." As he turned to leave, he saw Whisper of Stars running toward him with a group of her friends, both human and Zephyrian children following behind her. Jake, we're going to see the new baby space whales," she said excitedly. "The exploration ships found a whole family of them near the nebula." "That sounds amazing," Jake said, kneeling down to hug her. "Are you going to be a space explorer when you grow up?" "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I'll be a guardian like you, someone who helps different people become friends." Jake smiled. The galaxy needs more people like that. As the children ran off to their field trip, laughing in both languages, Jake realized that this was what victory really looked like. Not conquest or surrender, but children from different worlds playing together under the same stars. The war was over. The future had begun, and it started with one person choosing